Jim Collison live again from Heartland Developer Conference 2016. Not quite sure I know where I'm at, but it's been a long day of interviews. I'm here with Grant Stanley, and Grant, great to have you, and thanks for coming in. Let's get to know you a little bit. Tell me kind of who, we know who you are, but tell me where you come from, what you do, those kinds of things.
Yeah, so I'm the CEO of Bric. Recently transitioned contemporary analysis over to Nate Watson, so he's running that. And I'm working on using machine learning and applying that to manage creative agencies, creative teams. So helping the previously unanalyzed graphic designers, web developers, architects, engineers get the same levels of business intelligence that ConAgra, Union Pacific, Mutual Omaha have had for decades.
Yeah.
And we're doing that through machine learning, where we're taking people that, the challenge is if you manage an inventory of rail cars don't mind being tracked, right? And and they're run by professional managers who love counting and managing rail cars. But if you work at a professional services firm, you probably, if you're a manager, you were probably a creative or a developer, and now you manage people, but you really are passionate about doing software development, and you're managing people who don't want to be tracked. And so we're pushing that next wave of business intelligence where the technology kind of disappears into the background, and we give people incentives for being tracked by allowing AI to track them and then use that data to make more accurate project plans in the future, and allowing today's managers, today's partners to focus more on being technical experts, on being creative, and then leading their teams instead of just managing time.
Yeah, when we think of AI, everybody thinks of Siri or Cortana. In your world, what does AI mean?
Yeah, it's really, and I break it down. So there's human intelligence, there's organic intelligence, and then there's machine intelligence. And in organic intelligence, the power with that is it's massively parallel, and we forget things. So every time we re-pull a memory, we're pulling it different than it was previously pulled. So as we iterate on things, we get new ideas, and we become creative. What machines are really good at is recalling things, finding patterns. And so what Bric is using is machine learning algorithms to do line fits to figure out how long does that project actually take you, and presenting you with what is most likely, because we all have a cognitive bias towards planning for what we think is ideal, right? It's called the project planning fallacy. And even being aware of it, we still do it. Like we still know I'm being really optimistic here, but this is the plan. Like this time it's going to work. I'm going to have the ideal team, the ideal budget, the ideal client. Everything's going to go smooth. What the power, and that's kind of the beauty of our organic brain, where the machine brain says, okay, like you've done this project 20 times before, and it's likely going to take you, 300 hours. Yeah, you think it's going to take you 200 hours, but it's really going to take you 300 hours. And then we get to wrestle with that. And so, we're not pushing that envelope of self-driving cars, but we're using inorganic intelligence to provide a check and balance on our organic intelligence.
Yeah. Is that just really, in other words, I'm planning something. Yep. I'm going to make a guess at it, but the machine is going to say, yeah, probably not. And that needs to be reconciled. Is that?
It doesn't necessarily have to be reconciled.
Okay.
So the difference between what the machine says and what you say is you don't have to close that gap. What you have to do is recognize that you've been confronted with what is most likely.
Yeah.
And so if you actually go off of what is ideal, then the rest of your team can say, like, Jim, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
We know you were presented with what is most likely. Why did you deviate from it? And as long as you have a good explanation, then you're fine.
Yeah.
But it's putting a little bit more rigor to it.
Sure. Now, Grant, people have hope and machines have no hope, right? That's the difference. Right. We always think, that definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I think sometimes we have that internal optimism built into us. It's that hope. I think I could do it differently. But you're telling me probably not from that standpoint. Although that creates a new challenge in the sense that sometimes people will dive in thinking it would be different. And if they know it was going to take, if you know you're going to have to make a trip across town and you think it's 5 miles, instead of 25 miles, you're going to start, as opposed to if you know it's 25, you may never leave your garage. So there's got to be a human element to that as well, right?
Yeah, and there definitely is that component. You've given me something to think about here. But I mean, I liken it to kind of your GPS and how things have gotten so much better with GPS. When I started doing sales, I would drive around town and I'd plan it'd be 30 minutes to anywhere. Well, now I have some idea that it's 5 minutes here, it's 10 minutes here, and I know before I leave the house. The other thing that this allows us to do is we're not denying that things don't get better over time. That in the long run, things get faster, teams get better, and as humans, we forget that. We can't see that, Dave, who we hired 5 years ago, it used to take him this, but he's slowly getting better as he's getting more tools, as he's using higher level frameworks and languages. And the nice thing is a machine can detect those subtle differences, and so that over time, the machines are optimistic in the long run, where we are typically pessimistic in the long run and optimistic in the short run. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good. I mean, that's a good way of breaking that down. Yeah. Because you're probably right when you think through that. The human brain is an interesting, and as we make computers get closer and closer to them, it'll be interesting to see how that works. Because organic is definitely different than silicon, right?
Yeah, and it's just always going to be.
Yeah. That's a whole nother topic. Your session here tomorrow. Tell me a little bit about what you hope to accomplish.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm breaking down the lessons that I learned over 8 years of running contemporary analysis. So I ran a data science company, a consulting company that provided data science to Fortune 500 companies. Yet we didn't have data science internally. We didn't know who was working on projects, how long they were going to take, how we should price things. And so I've been able, over the last 2 years as I've been working on Bric, thought through what are the numbers, what are the analytics that you need to run your professional services agency. One of the key pieces of the presentation is going to be on the ratios that you keep between juniors, seniors, and partners, and how that impacts your profitability, a framework for thinking through the type of consulting agency that you have. So if you have a team that works on transactional work, well, your ratio is different, but that also impacts how you think about your profitability. If you're doing expertise work, that's, you've done this, you have a team that are experts in this, they've been working in the same field, this niche field for 10 years, that changes the number of juniors that you can have. Or if you're blue sky, you're trying to solve problems that no one else has ever solved before, you're going to need a different mix. Then getting into how do you overcome that project planning fallacy? What are the issues there? How do you overcome the need to collect data on your people? So one of the things that it's interesting. My partner at Bric, Josh Oberman, he hates to be tracked. Like surveillance, like he'll give up anything not to be surveilled, because he views it as the powerful tracking of the powerless, and that it's only for bad, it's never for good. Well, in a professional services organization, there's data that you can get that makes covalence possible, where employees know what their managers are doing, the managers know what the employees are doing, and there's benefits to both parties. It's not just the powerful to the powerless. It's that there's benefits all around to being tracked. And bigger companies, Mutual of Omaha, Union Pacific knows that, but they're tracking inanimate things. What we need to do is we need to go beyond tracking time for the sake of invoicing or cutting payroll and actually apply that data. But the problem with that is the reason that ERP systems haven't proliferated into the professional services world, where people are selling an inventory of hours and skills, is because professional services firms sell time. So if you're selling time, you don't have time to do all the analysis. So people track this data, and it's either getting used to bill clients or it never gets analyzed. That's where the machine learning comes in. And that's why I'm so excited about AI, is as I've thought about what tools did I need to run contemporary analysis better? It was I needed to offload the analysis, the management, so that I could focus on being creative, being technical.
Yeah, so it's allowing that automated or artificial AI, almost to say automated intelligence, because it's really, in some ways, it's taking what took a person to do. If you remove that, then you can do the tracking and still free up the billing hours, right? From that standpoint. How do you get past it? This is, hours I think are easy, but work effort sometimes is, especially like when we think about lines of code written, or when we think of software itself being written. How does one quantify the work effort? Or have you done any kind of work or study on that?
So what I've found, and we're just in the beginning stages of this project, and that's going to be kind of one of the interesting things as we talk about, the first 2 years. We're just getting to the point where we're starting to collect massive amounts of data. We're having several hundred employees sign up every week right now. So the studies are becoming more and more possible. But I'm pushing. So when you track time to capture to invoice clients, you want to eliminate any type of waste. If I talk to my team, if I take a snack break, if I go to the bathroom, like, cut that out, because I can't ethically invoice my client for that. But that's all part of the creative process.
Right.
Now, professional services have something unique in them, and that no one is going to learn to code or do graphic design and then get a job where they spend 40 to 60 to 80 hours a week doing this thing because they're lazy. Like, professional services only attract people who are really, really ambitious, who are passionate about doing the same thing every single day and pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But we need to break, if we're going to have this tracking and if we're going to apply data science to managing people, we have to break out of this punitive. Nothing can be punitive, and that's one of the other benefits of having AI, to pushing that as the next wave of BI, is because AI, you can take out the punitive piece, because as we're looking back, as managers look backwards, they find things that people did wrong. Well, if you take the AI, if you don't allow managers to look back, and the AI looks back and then uses it to provide managers information for the future, then it only becomes constructive. And I'm actually planning for you to take a bathroom break. I'm planning for you to take, a week off every quarter, because you are actually most productive in the quarters that you've taken off. But again, the AI has that long-term view, where your manager is just like, hey, I need you to get this done. Like, I'm in the heat of the moment, like the client's yelling at me, and the machine doesn't care.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So tomorrow, when you give your session, what do you hope? What's the one thing you hope they'll walk away with? What are you hoping to transfer to them?
A sense of optimism and a little bit of rethinking about the role of business intelligence. So business intelligence up to this point has been about reports and dashboards, models. And like, we as technologists love that. But if you think about what separates supervillains from heroes, is that supervillains keep a journal using an Excel spreadsheet. Like, they have just as many flaws, but the supervillains love the data. And I think that you're going to get more adoption of business intelligence if you push it towards this machine learning. The other thing is, you keep people from doing bad things with analytics if you're coding that into the machine learning. Now, the challenge with this is these things are really complicated. So it's not something that people can take and go apply elsewhere. But like the lessons, but the thoughts about, if we push the analysis off to computers, the future is going to be better, that we can do new things, that we can keep people from being leery about providing this data, because it's not going to be used by a manager to punish me later.
No, I like that. In some ways too, it makes the data, because it's coming out of a system, it makes it less threatening than when the manager goes, I just don't feel like you're working hard enough, right? Or I need you to work just a little bit harder. And so you've got some you kind of have some data behind that, and hopefully this is a huge challenge. I mean, I don't envy you in a lot of ways, because you're right. People do not like to be tracked or monitored in what they do. And so it's a difficult problem.
Well, and because if you started coding in high school and then 10 years later, a manager comes by and says, hey, I want you to work a little harder.
Yeah.
Like, that person is going to bite your head off,
right.
Because I'm a professional. I love this work. I'm working here because I love that work.
Yeah.
Where if it's baked into it, you know, if I know that my previous work has been analyzed, it's taken into consideration recent improvements in the trajectory of the speed and my proficiency, and I use that to plan future projects. I avoid that awkward conversation or insulting, a key employee.
I think it's good. I'd love to see some of your outcomes when you as you go down
the
there.
research is going to be great.
Yeah, no, it's good. Grant, thanks for taking a few minutes to be here. I'm never going to get in a battle with you, because man, nicely done. We're going to take a short break, and we have one more interview to do, and we'll be right back.